So in this segment, we're going to be talking about businesses criticising delays in the EU's import checks. Now, it's interesting that businesses are doing this. You think most businesses would be happy the UK are delaying checks, but then again, some aren't happy because it gives the EU a competitive advantage over us when it comes to trade, and some other businesses think that we can somehow use that as leverage. If we start doing import checks as leverage against the EU for them to stop doing import checks, it shows you they know very little about global trade. But the delay in extra checks on EU imports has been criticised by businesses for creating confusion and leaving the UK's borders vulnerable to unsafe produce. I think the main issue creating confusion is the fact that the government pull out the rug at the last minute. They're like, oh, you need to get prepared for import checks, and then a month out they're like, actually, you don't need to be prepared. And you've got the basically, as a country, we waste around £300 million on the infrastructure and probably contracts that were meant to be handed out to people in order to get these import checks done. It's madness. I'll cover that at some point. I know Max has already covered it. New controls on EU foodstuffs has been due to be introduced in July, but they have been postponed by the government, and they only delayed that, I think, back in May. Nova Fairbanks from the Norfolk Chamber of Commerce said uncertainty around import rules hits businesses. The government said it was delaying the changes due to rising prices associated with the war in Ukraine. That's nonsense. I'll tell you why that's nonsense, right? The war in Ukraine, the Russian invasion of Ukraine happened around February of this year. The government should have started import checks at the start of last year. It's nonsense. They don't have the staff or the infrastructure to do it. That's why they've delayed it. It said at this point it would be wrong to impose new administrative burdens and risk disruption at the border, but that's what Brexit was meant to do, right? How can we control our borders when we don't know what's coming in or out? It's the fourth time it's delayed the EU import check since the UK left the free trade bloc. Miss Fairbanks said businesses work on certainty, which is true. I absolutely agree with that. Hence why I think we haven't seen as much investment in Northern Ireland as we would have seen if there wasn't so much uncertainty around the protocol, thanks to Tory government. If the government says the checks need to come in, they will gear up to invest to meet the needs for the checks. Because if these ports weren't ready for it, the government would have lambasted them for it. Lambasted. If the government then turn around and say, we're not going to introduce them, it's a problem for businesses. These ports are wasting a lot of money, and these councils at the end of the day that have these ports are going to have to recoup a lot of the money somehow. And if they have to increase council taxes, then it's unlucky. The uncertainties also cost councils money, including East Suffolk District Council, which covers the port of Felixstowe, which is I think it's the largest port in the UK, as they've had to prepare for checks by employing more people to manage the post-Brexit border checks on EU food imports. And if we actually look at the Council of East Suffolk District Council elections, 39 Tories. So if they're going to have to increase your council tax to recoup the money, then that's the Conservative council attacking the Conservative government. So my personal favourite, blue on blue. The uncertainty has also cost councils money, which covers the port. We mentioned that. A council spokesperson said, however, following the announcement of a delay to implementation, we are now exploring a range of options to help us address a highly challenging situation. They even talked about, some of these ports have taking legal action against the government over this. Tom Bradshaw, an Essex farmer and deputy president of the NFU, National Farmers Union, warned that without proper checks, unsafe meat could be imported, which is true, because we've spoken about it before, which is if the products come in sealed, right, and they say for the UK, they'll sell through the EU, no problem. Or should I say, for Great Britain, they'll sell through the EU. They won't be checked by the EU because it's not the destination isn't an EU country. It's the UK, a third country. So they'll fly through, without being checked. And people in the UK, the staff in the UK won't check them because it's come via the EU. If you see what I'm saying, it just doesn't make sense. Not what the EU are doing, what the UK are doing. The British Veterinary Association was worried about an outbreak of African swine flu among pigs on the continent, and he said not having full checks on livestock was dangerous. Simon Doherty, past president of the British Veterinary Association, said, "This isn't about a bunch of vets creating jobs for themselves, because at the end of the day, we have a shortage of vets in this country anyways. These people could do, they could easily make decent money by checking on, cats and, domestic animals." Jack Hansen, managing director of fruit and vegetables wholesaler Fountain Fresh Import of Westbeck in Cambridgeshire, said he was pleased the new checks had been delayed, and you can see why, because he sells fruits and vegetables. It was much more work, it was much more cost, it was all going to get passed on to us, and then to the consumer, you're talking, I think minimum 10 to 15% increase in costs just for doing the physical checks. Some of the costs would have been up to about 70%, it would have been unviable. The Department for Environment and Rural Affairs spokesperson said, "We have strict biosecurity controls on the highest risk imports of animals, animal byproducts, plants, and plant products from the EU. EU countries affected by African swine flu cannot export pork or pork products from affected regions unless in very specific circumstances." What if they just lie? What if they just say, this isn't from this, potentially infected place in, I don't know, Greece. This is from a safer place in Greece. Yeah. Who's checking this stuff? I genuinely don't believe it. We'll be talking more about the ports later on, but the Conservative Council in Felixstowe genuinely going to have certain problems here. That govern Felixstowe, because you've wasted a lot of money on this stuff and you've got nothing to show for it apart from infrastructure that will never be used, which is just kind of crazy when you think about it. That they've actually put the money up and nothing's happened. They've wasted so much money and they're going to have to recoup it. I don't know how they're going to do that without taxing people more, which I'm sure is going to go down well with the local population. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.